and the Wolves, they both answered their call with their seasons on the line. This is the best time of year, and we're here to get you set on NBA Today.
The Timberwolves with a convincing dominant win, and this series is now 2-1.
I was super happy about the physicality that we brought and the energy that we brought.
All the chants about Wolves in 6, Wolves in 7, we still down 2-1, so we got to be ready to win the next game.
They're looking for the knockout.
I know you guys roll your eyes when they say no lead is safe, but no lead is safe.
And New York's got the lead.
Grit and continuity. This team is special.
New York 106, Indiana 100.
Hey, welcome to NBA Today, where we are live in Minneapolis alongside the one and only Shanae Ogumake, NBA champ Udonis Haslem, our senior writer Brian Windhorst. I'm Malika Anders. Hey, happy Memorial Day, everybody, to all of you who have served. Thank you so very much, both, for your service and for spending a little bit of your afternoon to talk some hoops with us. Sitting right next to us, we still are the stewards of. We still get to keep watch over the Western Conference Finals trophy here, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They got one on the board towards this trophy just a couple of days ago here. But if you're really quiet, UD, can you hear it? Can you hear Stephen A. Smith still celebrating down the streets here in Minnesota in solidarity
Dancing,
with
eating ice cream.
the New York faithful? Because this is what happened in Indiana last night. This is when you thought they had us in the first half. Not going to lie, not going to lie. Karl-Anthony Towns, he drives. This was actually a whistle on Halliburton, but after a review, you see Towns pushed off here. The Knicks committed 16 fouls in the first half, their most in any half this season, and Towns heads to the bench here, Brian, in some foul trouble.
Yeah, it was a real set of circumstances that the Knicks really were not prepared for. They wanted to change up their lineups a little bit, but not like this.
Well, less than a minute later here, Halliburton with another steal goes the other way for the jam here. Indiana, Sinead, would go on a 13-0 run after Towns went to the bench with his third foul.
You're giving people what they want. They are the best fast break scoring team, transition team in basketball, and they're playing with emotions on their sleeve. But then guess what? The Knicks eventually said a little bit, hold my beer. But
An
first,
important moment here in the third quarter with the Pacers up by 13. Aaron Nesmith, he drives, he twists his ankle, you can see right there. He would return, but he would miss big minutes here in the game. So UD to the fourth quarter we go. Karl-Anthony Towns, he entered the fourth quarter, as you can see, just 4 points, 2 of 8 shooting from the field, and this is when he would take over.
Yeah, shooters keep shooting, and we don't worry about Cat when he's not making shots. We just worry about Cat being aggressive and staying in the game defensively.
This brings us to the play of the game, brought to you by Dave & Buster's. The Knicks down 1 here. Towns coming inside, look out below.
yeah, he's the best shooting big man in basketball, but also the best driving. He does not dribble often because he finishes with force.
We know how the rest of that close-up ended.
We don't need to talk about
later, big play here with the Knicks up by 1. Jalen Brunson commits the blocking foul. That gives Brunson his 5th foul, Brian, with 7:03 left to play. This is when everything changed.
It's a tough call, but they had to go with all cat ball down the stretch.
This was big bodega. Karl-Anthony Towns, 20 in the fourth quarter. They're the second most by a Knicks player in the fourth quarter of a playoff game in the last 25 years. That's what that base is saying here. So Brunson would re-enter the game with just a minute and a half left, essentially.
Tough
and put
floater.
the finishing touches on this.
Tough floater with the left. That's an unguardable shot for him.
Still a chance, though, for Indiana. And we've seen these shots go in, but I was with Brian. This is the moment he said, you know what? Indiana's gotten a lot of friendly and improbable bounces here. Maybe they were due for one not to go. This one didn't, and New York is on the board. They get the win 106-100 here. Now, the Knicks, they have a knack for overcoming big leads this postseason. They're the first team to win 3 games after trailing by 20 or more in a single playoff run. New York needed that to avoid falling behind 3-0 and virtually ending their season. Here's Tibbs earlier today on the heroic performance he got from his big man.
The guy's averaged a lot of points all season long, so I don't think it's anything new. It's his body of work is what it is, and he's been a really good player in the league for a long time. So, as has Mikhail and OG. So we've got some primary scorers that can play, off the ball, with the ball. You can go to them, and then the game will dictate what we do.
It can make or break teams when you're going through things like that. And I think obviously what we did last night definitely helps us. And we saw that we were on the brink of it looking pretty dark for us. And the way we responded, I think it brings us closer together.
That availability coming from an undescript basement somewhere.
I like it.
Here was the cover of the New York Post this morning, though. It reads, "Chokes on you." A picture of Karl Anthony Towns, though. Sinead, there are the types of performances you do not forget. I do not think we will be forgetting this one from Cat anytime soon. What stood out to you the most?
Karl Anthony Towns, Big Cat, finally found his claws. He finally found his claws in the fourth quarter. Again, 20 points in that frame, matching the entire Pacers squad. But there are a few plays that I truly loved with how he was aggressive, and it was on both ends of the floor. So as I take you to the tape, first of all, he secures the rebound right here. All right, nobody's there for the outlet, so he's pushing the ball. He has vision. Most people are so worried about his three-point shot when he crosses over half court. What does he do? He keeps his eyes up. He finds the one right available. The paint is wide open, throws a dime. 22 out of 26 points scored or assisted by Cat. Now let's get to his bag. This play was great because what you notice is that without Brunson on the floor, oftentimes they found this solution that they use even with him in the matchups, right? They're posting up their big guards, which allows Cat to be a shooter. You sleep on him. Brunson, you have to follow him on the perimeter, which leads to the massive dunk and, of course, the stare down, and we saw what happened after that, too. But last but not least, on this play, I love this because he's essentially playing point guard. They're going to set a screen for your five, your big man. Now, the problem here is you go under the screen. Now you're forcing Pascal Siakam to really rush the shooter, and you had a two contest, possibly even a foul, and he knocks down the three. He was unconscious. He had a great fourth quarter, and that will need to carry over. But I said earlier, it was on both ends of the floor. Look at what he did defensively as well. Wow. 3 for 14. That's what he held his opponents for shooting, 21%. Look at the comparisons there. Games 1 and 2, they scored 20 points on him, and game 3, only 7. So a lot of people are very critical on his consistency, but at least we knew Jalen Brunson could be a closer. Now we're seeing that Cat can be as well.
Yeah, this was huge for Cat, and I really think that Tibbs stumbled upon something accidentally here with this lineup here.
Right.
This lineup with Hart, this lineup with McBride, you have Wright, you have Cat, and you also have Shamet. This is a lineup that they haven't shown before. So I think if you're a team that hasn't seen this before, you kind of fall into the habits of guarding those guys the same way you guarded those other guys. If I have Wright, if I have Shamet, well, he can make shots. I have McBride, but I'm in the paint. I'm taking away everything. It's got to be anybody but Cat with that lineup in the game, and I'm making other guys beat me.
When you say UD stumbled on it, he was really looking around because in this game, the Knicks used 15 different lineups. Okay, that in itself is unheard of for a playoff game. 7 of the 15 lineups that they used, they had never used before. Absolutely unheard of in a playoff game, especially what is a de facto elimination game. So it's not surprising that the Pacers were looking around a little bit going, where are we supposed to go? Right. It wasn't like he wanted to do this necessarily. Some of it was he introduced some new players off the bench. Some of it was foul trouble, let him go like that. This was a completely unpredictable game, which is what Jalen Brunson said afterward.
Right, that foul trouble that Towns and Brunson got into, it led to Tibbs really getting in his bag and having to go deep in his lineup here, and it gave the Indiana Pacers some trouble. Maybe those guys were not on the scouting report. Let's take a listen to Tyrese Halliburton on just that.
With other guys playing, those are, I think those, especially all 4 of the guys who played off the bench are really defensive guys, and they come in and wreak havoc. And I thought we just didn't do a good job of, continuing to play fast.
Well, they had a lot of their better defenders in the game in the second half, and that makes it harder. And so, you've got to grind defensively to get rebounds, and there's a different element of grinding when you're going against their better guys.
It's not a total surprise. The Knicks have been really good on the road this postseason. But, Brian, that was a really easy quote to miss from Rick Carlisle, but it told you a whole lot. Can you just repeat what he said and why that's so
basically
important?
What Halliburton and Carlisle said was they didn't have Brunson and Cat on the court together at the same time. Because while that group is awesome offensively, they are both all-NBA players. I want to be very clear. I am not suggesting, nor was I think the Pacers suggesting, that they are better when they're off. However, the way Indiana is attacking them defensively, if you have 2 players on your team at the same time that are issues defensively, you have trouble stopping teams. The Pacers were scoring at will, attacking those 2 guys down the stretch of this game. And by the way, Tibbs knew that. Do you want to know how I knew he knew that? Because he didn't bring Brunson back till there was like a minute and a half left in the game. Because what was working in Game 3 was that lineup with Cat being the only weak defender and the lead offensive player.
Yeah, and what's interesting as well when you think about the Pacers, their signatures is literally their name, the pace, but it's also their passing.
Right.
In that fourth quarter, actually leading it up into the 12 playoff games, they've been averaging around 29 assists. In that fourth quarter, they only had 1 assist. And I was watching, and I was like, this is half court. This is stagnant. That was an issue for them. That was their lowest assist quarter since 2014 in a playoff game. So to me, it's the identity that they lost down the stretch.
Yeah, we have to give credit to guys like DeLon Wright and Shamet. Shamet was plus 12 last night in 11 minutes, and DeLon Wright down 0-2 on the road. That's a tough situation to step in and hold forth. So those guys did their job, but they're going to have to figure out, because they can't go to that lineup again. There's no way in hell they can go to that lineup again. It's going to work.
They're going to have to figure out something to do here in Game 4. But it does feel a little bit different now. Okay, they get one on the road. Even if they get Game 5, they've taken back